Hi folks, this is Tim Garman for SIT, facilitating on NZDP101. And this is a very brief introduction to the Photoshop interface. Now I have open here the Brighton storm image, which is the first task on NZDP101. But I'm not going to do anything to this image, it's just sitting there for me to show you the Photoshop interface, particularly if this is completely new to you. So first of all, we have a main menu at the top with a bunch of menu options. We have an option strip sitting at the top of the window. We have tools on the left, and we have palettes on the right. Now the first thing I want to do is make sure that you are looking at a similar screen setup to me. So have a look at window and check what it says against workspace. Make sure it's got Essentials Default selected, and what this does it will give you all the tools that Photoshop has to offer. You can be more specific and set it up for photography or graphic design, and it will give you a more limited tool set, but we're going to work with everything that's available to us. So make sure it's on Essentials Default. You can also reset that just to make sure it's in the default layout. So looking over here on the left, we have the tools. Now you'll see that here it is in a single column, and we can change that by clicking the small arrow so that they become double banked, and I tend to prefer to see it that way. It just seems to me that they're a bit more available to use. Next to point out is that some of these tools have other tools hidden underneath them. So if we check the lasso tool, we see that there's a small triangular arrow at the bottom right corner of the icon. If we hold the mouse key button down, we see we get other tools available, and it's worth also pointing out that you may possibly have another tool as the topmost tool. So if your tool palette doesn't look the same as mine, just check and make sure that you have the top tool selected. And a number of these tools have hidden tools underneath them. Now I'm not going to go into each individual tool and what they do. That's not the place to do that here. I want to keep this video quite short. So we've got a bunch of tools. We've got the foreground and background color indicators here, and we can select a different color by clicking on them. At the bottom we've got different ways of viewing the screen for presentation, but I would suggest we'll leave those alone for this paper. Note that when you choose a different tool, for instance the crop tool, the options in the option strip change. So this is how you can adjust the settings for each individual tool. It's also worth pointing out that when you mouse over these tools, you get this quick video tutorial on how the tool works. So it's worth looking at those to familiarize yourself with what the tools do. Over on the right, we have the palettes, and we have a way of selecting palettes as well. If we go to Window, you'll see some of these have ticks against them. We see the layer palette has a tick against it, and that indicates that the layer palette is here and available. Now if you're looking for something here and you don't see it, you can go to the window, and we might say we want to see the info palette, and it's not on the right, so we select it from the window menu and we get an info palette appear. Now we can drag that out and make it a floating palette if we want, and we can also dock it back into the palettes on the right. If you're running out of space, perhaps you've got too many palettes open, you can double click the tab and you'll be able to close them down. Each one tends to fill the space, so we can completely close them all down that way. So that's a brief introduction to the Photoshop interface. One final thing to consider is that you may find all this very confusing with so many menus. It's also worth pointing out that for each of these palettes there is a menu in the corner. So that seems like a heck of a lot of menus. But one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of the information is repeated. So you get a menu here with some things you can do specifically with layers, or if you go to perhaps color swatches, you've got a menu related to color swatches. But a lot of these menu items are repeated up at the top menu and also in some other places as well. So it does make Photoshop look more intimidating than it actually is. Don't let that intimidate you or put you off.